I want to make sure that people have tried different of the techniques, and whether you have any technical questions now, if you'll address them to Clayton, and Clayton will get them to me, and I'll see if there's any questions that I can answer beforehand that might help. If you haven't been here before, that's fine, because I think that any questions we use will be able to be relevant to everyone else. And what I want to talk about, demonstrate tonight, what we call apps or editing apps. Once you take the picture, that's only the beginning. And there's always the controversy, it's almost become a cliche that if you change the painting, if you change the photograph, it's called photoshopping. It's not real anymore. It's not a real photograph. But there's no such thing as a real photograph. If you want somebody to look bad, get a very wide angle lens and get up close to them and take their picture. And their whole face will be distorted. So it depends upon the camera that you use. Most of the photographs of politicians, they catch them in that one moment when they're very, very unattractive. And so what is the real picture? And what's happened in the last 5 or 6 years is that Apple mostly, they started it, and now Google has it also, has opened up their whole program, their whole camera, for people to create what we call apps or applications. And they charge you, and I'll go through some of these, $3 or $4. Apple takes a dollar out of each one of them, but they have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who use these apps. You use them all the time. And editing and improving with the applications, once you've got the picture, once you've got the image, and the image is on your camera, it's actually up in the cloud, what is the purpose of going any further? And there are 3 major purposes. The first one, I would say, probably is to improve the picture. What do we mean by improving the image? If it's a little bit out of focus, you will always have one of the little editing that you can do right when you take the picture to sharpen it. If it's too dark in someone's face, you can adjust the brightness. You can get the color just right. And then you should crop it. And that cropping takes out the extraneous information from the photograph. These are the first things that you can do. The next thing that you might want to do is to convert the picture. By that, you can take it and add different colors to it. You can put funny faces on it. You get this all the time from people. You can add elements. Some of the apps we're going to show you tonight, you can put them together for a double exposure. Some of the other apps allow you to make a collage. And the final thing is a total transformation. By that, I mean, you may have a picture of a flower, and there are apps now that will allow you to do a watercolor just like that. Other apps will turn it black and white. Other apps will take out, you can actually, one of these applications, if there's somebody in the picture or there's something that you want to get rid of, you can just circle it and it'll get rid of it, and it'll seamlessly put the rest of the background together. These applications come in many different varieties, and I'm serious at this point. I'm finding there must be 300. The whole thing that you should try to do is get 1 or 2. I'll try to, some of these will be subjective, there'll be recommendations, but I'll also show you how to Google lists so you can decide yourself. But you should take 1 or 2 of these editing apps and really try to master it. And then go from there. You should find the best free photo editing app for you and your brand also, and what works best with your camera. And the next thing is, what do you want to achieve? Why do you want to fool around with it? Why do you want to change it? Do you want it to be funny? Do you want it to have rabbit ears on a kid? Do you want this to turn into something atmospheric? Do you want to make it look like a waterscape? Do you want to brighten it, darken it? And this is what you should think of before you go, because otherwise you're going to be dealing at random. You're going to be all over the place. And I'm serious, there may be a couple of hundred of these applications out there. So think about what you want to achieve, test some of the photo editing apps and find the right one for you, and try to stick to just one or two. The ones that I will tell you I think are the best are, again, subjective. I'll give you reasons for it, but you can look yourself. And it's much better to become highly skilled in one app than to have mediocre skills in many. That's one of the problems. There's so much stuff out there. So let's get started. And before I do, are there any questions so far, Clayton, that might be relevant?
We have not had any questions yet.
Okay.
Ron,
so people who have been here before or people who are just coming in now are able to get to their camera, take the picture, do the basic editing. Some of the things that you may have questions about that you should be aware of is, and I haven't stressed this before, but the question will come up. There are different types of files, and every picture you take has a name. You put the name on, or the camera gives it a name. Then there's a period, and then there's 2, 3, or 4 letters after it. You're going to see JPEG, it's called, either a JPEG or JPG. What that stands for is nothing more than the algorithm that takes that enormous amount of digital information and compresses it so that you don't overwhelm the memory in your camera. When you open the picture up, the algorithm decompresses it, and hopefully you don't lose much of the quality of the image. I would stick right now with JPEG. People have asked about RAW. By the time you get to RAW, very seriously, you'll know much more what you're doing. And what RAW does is it doesn't compress it that much. It makes huge files, but it doesn't add anything to it. When you take a photograph with your camera, what's actually happening is the brain of the iPhone is taking that image and doing a little improving. It's trying to balance the color correctly. It's going to improve the exposure so that when you send it to somebody, it looks good. It might even go in and sharpen 25, 30%. And that's what JPEG does do. So that's one of the reasons why when you take so many pictures with your smartphone, they're almost all pretty good as far as the exposure goes and as far as the sharpness goes. A RAW photograph doesn't touch it. Everything is there. The file is enormous, but the point is you have to go in with a special editor in order to work with a RAW photograph. And there aren't that many apps that do that. I'll tell you which ones do that. The other thing that you should be aware of that sometimes comes up, you have a choice of the size of the file. A choice of the size of the picture. Is it 4:6? Is it 5:7? In other words, what are the proportions? I would try to stick with the proportions of 35 millimeter because that's what most people, and right now most images are taken to. So in other words, if you want a picture that's bigger than a 35 millimeter frame is 1 by 1.5 inches. So if you want a picture that's 6 inches across, then it's 6 by 9. And usually that's one of the choices you have. If you want to, you can choose a square format. That might be what you're attempting to do. But those are the questions there. And then another question that will come up is a thing called quality. Go for the highest quality that you can get, which is usually, I think they term it fine. These are just the questions that come up when you set up your camera the first time. So those are some of the issues there. And now let's go on and show you how to use some of these apps.
Ron, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One, sometimes people are seeing PNG files in addition to JPEG files. And I don't know if you know of a significant difference or why people would choose PNG versus a JPEG. And then there's GIFs as well, but GIFs are more for illustrations.
PNG is another platform. You would never put it. You won't. Don't use. I don't even think you can edit in with a PNG. You can get an image out of it, but it may be used for different purposes. Actually, some of the extensions are better for viewing on a screen. Some of them are better for printing. You won't see. It's rare to get to use a PNG. Some editors won't handle a PNG. There's HILR, there's HEIR, there's quite a few. I would try to stick with JPEG for right now.
The other thing that people have noticed, and I've certainly seen this myself, is if you're shooting live photographs with an iPhone, it doesn't save them as a JPEG. And in fact, they use their own like file format. So yeah, talk to people a little bit about that, because I've had problems sharing.
That's driving me nuts. I think that the file format, what is it, HEIC? I think that's what it is. That is a new format that Apple has been dealing with, and they like it because it takes up less room. That's fine for you to use, but you may find out that some of the apps we're going to be using and some of the the editing applications like Photoshop sometimes have trouble recognizing it. So if you have a choice when you're setting it up, I think you always have a choice of having JPEG with your iPhone or the HEIC, I think is what it is. I would use JPEG, because then if you take your picture, your file, to a service such as CBS or any other place to have them printed, they sometimes have trouble with it. The reason it's there, they want it to become the standard. Within a year, it may become a standard, but it takes up less space, and Apple claims it's better quality. Others, no.
Nope. I mean, the other thing that people see, especially with iPhones and the live, is the .movs. You know, you can get movies that, you know, you think you're shooting a picture, but it's shooting a 5-second movie. And so that's also common.
I haven't gotten that much into the video. I will, I think if we have some time tonight, if not by next week, take 10-15 minutes. It wasn't the intention, but there are only so many things that you can do with video, although now you can actually edit videos. I'll show you some of the apps that do that, that give you the ability to change the exposure for the entire video. There are other ways of slowing down the video so that it looks like slow. It's not slowing it down, it's speeding it up. Looks like slow motion. You can do time-lapse photography also. If you want to take a picture of a flower opening, you can set it up so that you'll need a little tripod. Hold on, because I forgot to give this to you last time. Gadgets. I know if I don't do it now, I'll forget. This is a cute little tripod. There it is. I forget what, I mean, you can't miss the way it looks. And what you can actually do is your phone will fit right on this, and you can bend this so that it'll actually go around a door, you know, go onto something. Yeah, look at that. So you can steady the camera. It also gives you the ability to run into the picture yourself once you put it on the time shot. And I think they're about not much more than $10 for this one. And then there are some fancier ones. And these are maybe $15, and they're miniature tripods that are very, very steady. They have bendable legs, so you can wrap it around a pipe if you need to. And if you carry one of these with you, you'll find that there's always a place for you to put it down and steady it. And if you're going to do time-lapse photography and set it up, let's say for every hour, you can have the camera take a picture every hour, you'll get a time-lapse photograph, and the computer and the camera will adjust for any small shaking, so you'll get a series of images. So these are little, and I think you can get them almost anywhere, and they're not expensive.
You just asked the question, and a couple of people are asking if there's a particular model of tripod, or if you have places. Do you just go to Amazon, or how do you?
Yeah, I mean, just Google. Just try smartphone tripod, and I'm sure you'll come up with a batch of them. These are the two. This one has been around for a long time. This one I've seen recently.
Another question was if you could demonstrate how you actually put your phone onto the tripod, because yeah, it's not obvious.
You're right. Where did it? Oh, I know what I forgot to show you. That's right. Then you have to get a clamp on this. I was using this with a different phone. That's a good question. That's a very good
we stumped you.
There it is. I have
there's an extra piece that you need.
It fits into a clamp, and I'm not sure if the clamp comes with it. Don't get it until you find out how to do it.
Other folks have seconded that. Yeah, you need a bracket for it.
Has anyone found no exactly? I think I have
just generic bracket. Yeah.
I haven't used the bracket in a while, but make sure you get the bracket.
Speaking of hardware, somebody else threw out a question, and you addressed this in a previous class, but they were asking about there's a name brand for Moment lenses and the Moment app, and maybe you want to say it, since we're talking about add-ons, it might be worth repeating what we said in previous weeks about lenses and other add-ons that you can do that could be worthwhile or not.
Yes, I'll show you later. I have those. I was going to use them maybe later, or I'd rather have some time to just get them set up. You can buy accessory lenses that come in a kit usually, and they fit over the lens of your phone. What they do is they give you a telescopic, not effect, a real telescope. Some of them are wide angle, and they're range in price from anywhere. Some can be very expensive. It can be about $100 for 2 or 3. Another option is the macro lens, a true close-up lens. I haven't heard or seen any yet that are of high enough quality that I would use. But if you want a telephoto lens, you can try one. Your best bet is, the only place I know that now sells them where you can try them is Hunt Photo in Harvard Square and in Melrose. They're is Newton Camera still, I think, in Massachusetts? I think Newton Camera is still open, is still in operation. And go in and take the thing, put it on, and see what it looks like. But the only place I've found around here was Hunt Photo. So before you get one by mail order, I would try one out or find someone who has them. You don't see many people using them. There's usually a good reason for that. Others. All right, let us go now. And I'm going to switch to the screen here. Oops. And we will go and look at some of the, let me get my, Bluetooth on. All right. And Okay, you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. Yep, you have
Okay.
now shared your phone.
All right.
Your Mac. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that you want to do, and those of you who have Android operating systems or Android phones know yourselves, I'm sure, how to go in to, I think it's called at that point, Google Apps. I forget what the term is. And you go in through there, and that's where you purchase your apps, which is what you see here. What I've done, and most people eventually do, is gather your apps into categories. So what you can see here is this is books, this is Apple, do it however you want, and this is photography. And so have all of your apps in one major album on your phone. When you go to get an app, you will go and let's do it this way. Oh, I know why, because I'm using my screen instead of my hand. All right, let's go back here and go to photography and go to, let's say, Apple, and go to the App Store. And once you go to your App Store, I'm using the Apple Store right now, and you want to go and get an application. The first application, let's try to get, this is one of the best, it's called Snapseed, Snapseed. I've tried to go out and find all the free ones, but I'll tell you the ones, you'll find some of them, the most expensive are not more than $7 or $8. But there's a slew of free ones, and this is a free one. And you'll go in and go to Snapseed. Now, you've got to be careful here, because when you go into Snapseed, there'll usually be some other app that's trying to sneak in. And they'll come in, so be very, very sure that the app that you're going to get is the right one. The other thing to be very careful about is sometimes you'll go online and an application or a widget will try to attach itself to your browser. Be careful about that also. You'll see it. It'll ask you finally, do you want me to put this in the browser? You go to Snapseed, you'll download it, you'll open it, and you're into your application. Snapseed is an incredibly robust editing tool, and it's free. And what you can do with it is you can, first of all, it gives you the overall look. So you can change it to different looks, HDR. And what you can also do after that is there's a series of tools, and this will drive you nuts. Look at the tools that you've got. It's more than you've got. You'll have weeks of playing with this. You can tune the image. What do you mean by tuning the image? You can have the image so that you can change the brightness. You can change the highlights, the ambience, the warmth, the contrast. If I wanted to change the brightness, you can do it. And all of these tools are there that you can use. And the tools go from details. It'll sharpen an image. You can go and do, I don't know, I'll show you how much you can actually do with it. I think I'll get a better picture here, so give me a minute. And let's go to back to here. There's a thing also called curves. And this is one of the first tools that Photoshop invented about 20 years ago. And it's very, very effective. And what it allows you to do is to pick out a particular tone and a particular place of brightness and change the relevant brightness all the way through the picture. It's very, very powerful. Once you know what you're doing with it, you're going to have quite a bit of fun with it, but it's a very, very powerful tool. You can expand it, you can take it and you can rotate the picture. You can make it go up, down, sideways. The other tools here are perspective. You can take a building, we'll try that, and straighten it out. You can expand it. You can paint on it. If you have a face, let me see if I have a face here. Give me a minute. And I want to try to get a better picture. So let's see. Open an image. Here we come, 1 minute. They messed this up. Here we go. Now, if you wanted to change this and expand it, you can actually make the image itself larger, which will give you the ability when you download it to make a bigger print if you're going to print. Another one of the, another tool that you can use is whatever Glamour Glow is, and it allows you to change the apparent colors of the image like that until you get something that might be what you want. Tonal Contrast allows you to hit just the high tones, mid tones, and change the contrast any way you like within the image. So all I'm going to show you now is just the range of different tools, if you can see there. It can change the vantage point. It can make it grainy. I don't know what is Retrolux. There you go. Makes it look like an old photograph by changing, again, the tonality. The issue here is not exactly what it's going to look like, but the number of tools that you have that you can use. You can change it into many different visions of black and white, like that. These are things that you could never do up until the last couple of years. So this one is called Snapseed, and it's got, I haven't even begun. It's got maybe 20 different controls on this. You can do a double exposure with it. If you want to, you can even put a frame around it. And if you want to put a frame around it and send it to somebody with a frame, you can do that. If you want to print the picture eventually, or you want to frame it in a frame and you want it to have its own particular look, you can do that. People used to actually file out their negative carriers just so they could get a little black border like this.
Ron, when you're making all these changes, do you preserve an original? How do you make sure that you can go back? If
they will.
Changes,
it's a good question. Almost every one of these programs I'm going to show you will keep the original and allow you to have both of them. I would, and before you, and it almost always gives you a choice to save it or to export it. And then when you finish with it, you could even, in this one here, you can actually write a caption on the picture. So if you want to send a birthday card, make your own birthday card, you can do your own texting right on the photograph. It's right on the image itself before you send it to somebody, and make a personalized message. And this is all done with Snapseed, and it's free. I'm not sure what the catch is. Usually what the catch is that as you get really good at this, they come up with something that's even better and they charge you $3 perhaps to, for example, there's one that I'll show you that has a very, very good nighttime part of the app, but you pay $3 more for it. But none of these that I've ever seen are much more than $5 or $6. This one's free. I'm going to show you 3 extraordinary free ones. So there it is. You can have different styles of text. Double tap to change text. Okay. And you can go in there and change the text. Double exposures, frames, lens blur. These are all the different controls that you have using this application. Looks.
Ron, sometimes do they add watermarks, or are there free apps that add watermarks and make you pay to remove their watermark or something like that?
No. There are some where you can add a watermark so that you can send a proof to somebody so that they can't use it before they pay you to remove the watermark. So as a professional photographer, if you want to send proofs out, for example, of a wedding, and you sent them proofs that they can use that don't have anything on it, why pay you? You can scan a 5x7 and have it blown up as big as you want anyway. So you can put one in. And a copyright also, you can have an invisible copyright that these will put in for you.
And
when
Ron, these are all apps that you use on your phone. These aren't applications that you install to your computer, correct?
No, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you, the next step up. But most of these here, now somebody just asked, or you did, what do you do with it once you finish with it? You can share it, which gives you the option of going to WhatsApp if you want to. You can actually send it to Kindle, WhatsApp, or you can mail it. So you can take a picture, do what you want with it, and then mail it, email it, then export it. If you want to make sure you've got it, you email it to yourself, and it comes to you as an attachment, as a JPEG file, and then you've got it to do what you want with it. That's a very good way of doing it. So all of these options here, you can send it to notes. You can do almost anything with the picture as an export, and you can also copy it if you want another copy of it. So these are the different export tools that you've got. Creates a copy with the changes, and notice if you see down there, it says you can undo. That was the question. You can undo the edits if you want to do that. You can share it, or you can, even better, you can open it in, and what you can do is save it to a file, or send it to almost any other actions that you want to do that you can do with your phone. So that is Snapchat. That is a fairly close editing tool. It's a very, very good editing tool. There are a few others that are extraordinary. And these are the ones I want to show you first before we get into all the funny, all the ones that really transform. The 2 best, and I'm still not sure how they do it, is Photoshop Fix. Photoshop costs $680 when you buy it for your Mac or Android, almost any platform now. Photoshop is the original editing photo application. It's been, I think, almost 25 years. It was one of the first ones. They give this thing away, and it'll do, I'm finding out, almost everything that the $600 program will do. I'll show you that now. So you can go there, you download Photoshop, and we'll use Photoshop Fix. And there is, get rid of these pictures. You got to be careful, don't you? How the heck do you go out there? All right. One of the things that happen when you get these apps is they'll give you a tutorial. And it's a good idea sometimes to go through the tutorial, see what they're talking about, and then they'll even give you help so that you can go out and use Adobe Fix, and it'll give you all of this general information, and I would go through it. In other words, it's a manual. It's a very detailed manual on how to use this. If it says, can I use Photoshop Fix to adjust pictures? And you go to it, and it'll tell you step by step, very simply, rather than having 15 pages of how to do this and what to use and what controls to use. So most of the good ones come with, now, if you want to, they will allow you to pick up the, access the camera. You say, okay. And at that moment, if you take a picture, I'm just doing this right here, and you use the photo, you then have the ability to take it, crop it however you want to, just like that. Then you can flip it one way to the other, flip it that way. You can change this that way. And then what you can do is go back to the original. You have different formats that you can use. And then it allows you also complete adjustments. I'm just taking I'm using this because there's light and dark in this room, and there's some color, so it's an easier thing to do. And it allows you to do all the things that you can do with Photoshop. You can change the contrast, warmth, saturation. Again, you want to make highly saturated. Shadows, you can bring out what you can't see from the shadows. So what this is allowing you to do is to adjust almost everything that you would normally do after you've taken the picture. You can do some other things which allow you to change the appearance. This is called Liquify. You can do swell, which allows you to take the picture and swell certain. You can twist it. It'll find the face for you. I'll show you one with a face. So all of these controls down here are essentially what you used to get with Photoshop. And what Photoshop is used for, mostly, I would say, in this case, is to take the picture and adjust it however you feel like that. All of a sudden, again, you've taken it and now you can see the different detail in it. You could have taken it and made it more contrasty. And in a few minutes, actually, make a picture and have a photograph that gives you the way you really want it. You've now made the sun much brighter. You can bring out shadows, for example, if you want to. You can make the foreground any color that you want to. And then you can also adjust the sky in a second to bring all the clouds out. It took me, 5 seconds to do that. So this is called Photoshop Fix. It's free. And I'm pretty sure that it'll work on your Androids. Also, those of you who have Samsungs or LGs, that you can go to the Google store and download Photoshop Fix. And these are just some of the different adjustments that you can make. What is light? brush. Oh, you can take a brush and brush over it to make certain parts of it. Oh, wow. I'm not sure what it's doing, but you can take a brush and change colors. I didn't realize you could do all that too. And you can take a brush and make it darker or lighter. So you could go in here on someone's face that's in the shade and actually just lighten up that face so that people can see the detail in it. Because you can take the brush, it'll take some practice, and you're using your finger, and you can go in there and just brush over certain areas. Structure, I don't know what structure, and restore it. So these are, you can defocus, paint, liquify, adjust, crop. Healing, let's see if I can do a healing on this. It might work, but I don't think I'll have to get somebody's face and actually heal it. When it says healing, it'll take a blemish on a subject's face. And if you use the healing brush, when you go in there, it will actually, the app itself will allow you to brush over that so that you can't see a mole or you can't see a pimple, and it will smooth the skin out on a portrait. That's what healing is. And all of these controls are part of a free application.
So Ron, there's a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One of the questions was simply about the app. We're using Photoshop Fixed right now.
Right.
We saw Photoshop Mix on your phone as well.
But I'm going to show you I'm going to show you four different Photoshop apps.
Okay, so hold on. We'll learn about Mix in a minute. The other question, are they, and they're both free? Or Fix is free? You'll tell
They're
about
all free. So far from what I've found, they're all free.
Okay. The other question is, so with all these options, both in Snapseed and in Photoshop Fix here, there's so many options. How do you know when to quit messing? Is there no right or wrong? Like,
you never know.
How do you decide what's the right edit to make?
That's where you got to be careful, because you've got infinite options. You can go nuts.
Some of us are pretty close to nuts already, Ron, so be careful.
Once you start playing there, I mean, it used to be you burned or you dodged while you were making the print, and there wasn't much you could do, and that was it. And sometimes you could change the chemistry, and other than changing the chemistry, and you had a choice of film. Some film or color films came in different varieties of shades. It's an almost infinite thing. You'll play with it. Hopefully, eventually, you're going to get to a style that you like. You're going to get to a couple of controls that really work well for you. And I would perfect those. Use only one or two of these apps. Snapseed is good, but these Photoshops are extraordinary. I'll show you another one here that's the most popular professional editing app out there. So here, again, with a face, if you wanted, for example, here to bring out the eye, the subject's eye in the shadows, you can do that and correct that if that's what you wanted. If you didn't want that, if you wanted it more mysterious, you have all of these controls that allow you to do this. If you wanted to change the aspect or the color or the tone after you take the picture, you can do that. There's always immediately exposure, opening that up. Look at that. 2 seconds to do what used to take in a darkroom. If you couldn't do it. It'd be very difficult to do. And Photoshop is very, very good at this. I'm showing you, if you wanted to just adjust the highlights or the tones, notice her hair and watch what I can do with her hair. The hair is in a highlight. If I really want to add some emphasis to that side of the picture, see that? And it's made it much, much brighter and given it a totally different aspect. So these are quite a few of the different let's just see here. I made a smile. Did you see that? I'm not good at it. Watch this. See her mouth? Smile? No smile. Bed goes up, bed goes down. Look at that's amazing. You can make the lips fuller if you want to. You can actually go in and just do the lower lip. You can go in and play with the upper lip. So you can take a picture of somebody and make them smile, make them droop.
Now, Ron, you told us people should never be smiling in pictures. So maybe this is how you undo smiles, huh?
Well, start like this, and if you want to put a smile in, you know, then you got to smile. But this is amazing. What you can do with this, and then you can go back and you can restore it if you want to. You can swell it. You can even go and probably twirl the picture around a little bit also, and go to different elements. That's just with a face. And this is still Photoshop. If you feel that there's that, and that should come out to smooth, and take the shine off her nose if you want to do that. So when you're taking portraits and you experiment with this program, you can end up, people might not even know what you've done. And I would call that improving in your own life, a photograph that initially may not have had the best quote quality. By that I mean the shine on the face, the shadows, the highlights, and this allows you to do almost all of these things with it. And I can take it and just lighten a portion of the picture and not lighten the rest of it. So if I wanted to and just bring out a certain area, I can go in and do that. It's amazing. And then, of course, as I said, you can paint. If you want to, you can go in and make the picture fuzzier so that she looks a little, look at that. So if you've got I'll give you an example. You take a photograph of 3 people, and 2 of the people you don't particularly want are not the object that you really want. It's not the subject that you want. You can go into that right here and just defocus the people that you don't want the observer's eye to go to, and focus just on the person that you want. And that's what this does here. And there it is, and I've defocused her face. Or if there's an element of the photograph that's distracting, you can take this defocus and go in there and blur it out. For example, the behind Clayton's head, or behind mine, there's a post. I shouldn't have done it this way, but anyway, so there's the post behind my head. It is distracting. So there's a post. If I was a photograph, I could go in with this. I could take the picture and go in there and blur it out so that it's no longer a distracting part of the photograph. If you want to, you can go back to it and restore it just like that. So you can experiment in real time how you want that image to appear. All right. That is Photoshop Fix. Then there is Photoshop Mix. This is Adobe Photoshop Mix. What Adobe Photoshop Mix allows you to do is to take two images, go to stock, go there, take one image and take another image. And what it'll do is put the two images together so that you have a double exposure. It takes about 5 or 10 minutes to get it just right. But I don't think I've done, this is an empty album. That's what Photoshop Mix does. It's used almost primarily for double exposure. If we have time, I'll go back and do one. But that's also free. And that's another one you can play with. Then there is Photoshop Express. All right. What can you do with Photoshop Express? You can have, again, different looks. See that? Gives you that option. There's a vignette. This is a different color. And you can go in and change all of these. Now, this is different from the first Photoshop I showed you. I forget, it wasn't Mix, it was, what was the name? Fix. Yep. Fix is a basic editing tool that, when I say basic, it's to improve the photograph to get the ultimate quality that you want. This one gives you a lot of options to play around with the picture. For example, you can have the normal looking, you can have different color aspects, you can have, if you want to, invert it, you can have all these different renditions of the picture. And there it is in pastel. This is, again, a free one. And see that? So now I'm changing the whole aspect of a photograph. You can go in and there are themes. So this is a theme. What's the theme? Don't ask me. These are different themes. So you can make these themes up and put your own titles in. So if you wanted to, and you wanted to show somebody where you took the pictures, you can go in here and have your own themes of, I suppose you could say, creativity. Okay, and you have control over the texting if you wanted to do that. There are overlays. Let's try this one. How do I get rid of that? I don't know. Let's see if I can revert. You got to be careful. Don't save. Let's get out of there. Don't save it. And let's go back to, let's take it here. Take a few moments to leave us a review. And then you can't get out. All right, not now. They want you to rate it. They're always wanting you to rate the thing. Okay, here you're starting with a basic photograph. This is all done with the iPhone. So you're starting off with a basic image. You can transform that image into something else. There's a high contrast. You like that? Yeah, I like that more. You can change it to that. You can give it a different sense of color. And there must be 50 different overlays. These are filters that you can use. We're not doing the essential balancing of the shadows and the highlights. But again, it's a freebie and it's very, very nice. It's got all kinds of different ways of transforming a picture so that it gives you a different kind of impression of what you're doing. Again, you can rotate it, you can change it, you can change the aspect of it, you can go in and with selection tools, make it look like light leaks there. So it looks like it was a light leak. You can go in and do other overlays all the way through to change the aspect of it. You can select the subject. It'll find it. Now I don't know how to get out of this. Anyway, this is the ability here to do almost anything that you want with a picture and change. Here's the original photograph. And you can go in and change the white balance. See that? Just like that. If I didn't like that, it's a little flat. That photograph is a little bit flat. It's very difficult to fix something like that. But if you go here, you can go to, and just like that, change the aspect and find one that gives you the balance you want, and it'll improve it and give you another rendition for that particular picture. If you want to, you can change the colors, pop color, whatever that is. So this is the program I would use if you want to have all kinds of, how shall I put it, transformations. And it's fun. And you'll go and you'll play with it and you'll find one particular transformation that you really like. So let's go from there. So that is Photoshop Express. We've seen Photoshop Fix. We've seen Photoshop Mix. I'll come back to it. It's just putting two pictures together. And let me just see if there's one that was already done. I don't think there was. To do that, let's try that. Smart camera. There's one. And tap a selected photo and make transformations. So you go in there, and I guess you can rotate it, copy it, and put that together with another picture. And you go to an image, and we'll go to that and see what happens. You can probably, and this will allow you to take one image and put it over another and get a double exposure. It's very good for if you have a portrait and you want to take that person's portrait and put it into a background or put it into a backdrop. It allows you to do that. Now, let's go from there. There's so many. This is the one that really surprised me because it's Photoshop's most popular product right now. And almost every professional photographer I know is using this. I don't get it. I find it confusing. I've been working with Photoshop for so long that I really found, but it's extraordinary. It's the one that almost everyone uses. It's a quarter the price of Photoshop. It's maybe $150 to $200. This one here is free. And important messages, not now. And let's just take Lightroom photos. Take a photo. And what it allows you to do is actually get in, and it's a little bit easier to use than Photoshop. And it allows you to immediately, there's an auto on this that allows you to immediately take the picture and fix it up. And it's got a healing brush. Again, it's got almost the same effects as Photoshop, but more. I really think it's got more. It's got a thing called clarity. It's got another called dehaze. Now, you ask me, what is this doing? all I can tell you is if you go in with Lightroom like this, you're going to have extraordinary control over the final appearance of your picture. I would say possibly even more than Photoshop. Optics, it will correct for the chromatic aberration of the lens of your camera. It will go in and know that you're using a particular smartphone and have an algorithm that corrects for that one particular smartphone. So again, it has all of the options of Photoshop with probably five or six more controls, and that's called Photoshop Lightroom. And as far as I know, I'm almost sure it's free. Some people have asked, where do you go from here? If you're going to put Photoshop or Lightroom on your own Mac or on your own Dell, they fit on any platform. Once you take your picture, you can download it directly to your desktop. So if there's any questions, before we finish, I want to answer questions. I just wanted to show you what's out there and what's free and what you can do with this. Then what you do is you get to these very, very specialized applications that are totally transformative. This is the one that I showed a class how to do this, and people went nuts. Let me see if I have here a good example. I'm trying to find a flower picture. There it is. Okay. This is called Waterlog. Look at that. I made an instant watercolor in less than 10 seconds. Absolutely incredible program. So you can make watercolors out of almost anything. And I had one person in the class that did a whole day in her life or something at home and had it published using this thing. So that's just an amazing, there's the original. It's going to now take it, turn it into a watercolor. Worth the price of admission. It's called Waterlog, L-O-G-U-E. It may be as much as $3 or $4. None of these are very expensive. One Starbucks. No, two $2 chucks. Anyway, and not only that, but you have a choice of different aspects so that you can change it to different kinds of watercolors. And it is absolutely incredible I'm trying to get back to something that would look good. Okay.
To save folks from having to look it up, a couple of folks have looked it up. I believe in the App Store, that one is $4.99 today.
Look what it just did.
Yeah.
I had a picture here of, let's see, how do I go back? You can go back. You saw the original. I almost lost the original. I didn't lose it. It's still there. There is another watercolor of a wall. That was, the original wall. You can see there with the plant in front of it. It's $5. It's amazing. One of the problems is it gets to be like HDR. Everybody finds out about it, and everybody starts making watercolor paint, photographs. But this is one that I think is really quite a bit of fun. And
lots of people have appreciated that one and are finding lots of free ones. So people may want to just play with looking at watercolor apps, because I don't think this is the only one out there.
Are there more? I mean, I haven't gone out to look at that many because there's so many apps right now that it can become really, okay, there's the original picture. And there it is in watercolor. I know it's cheating, but it's really amazing. All right, that is Waterlogue, L-O-G-U-E. I'm watching my time here. That's Waterlogue. Then there are the ones that you play with. These are the ones that you send to people, okay? And this one here gives you all kinds of things that you can play with and send them to people. All right, this one is called Aristo. And look what it does. It's great for kids. Seriously, if you've got kids or grandchildren at home, just get Aristo and let them play with it and send it to people. It's really, it's quite something. That is, and these what I mean by transformative. I think this one's free. I think so. That is called Artisto, A-R-T-I-S-T-O. I will post I can do that right between after this class, next day or so, post lists. What I'll do is I'll post you some URLs to go to a listing with examples of 30 good apps, you know, what other people have thought. I wanted to demonstrate these tonight. So there's that, there's Aristo, there's Photoshop Fix, there's Express, there's Blendio. You can control a picture so that it looks like that it blurs it so it looks like it's changed in time. It's motion blur. I don't particularly see all the uses for it. And these are just a few of all of the different choices you've got. This is called Vsco, V-S-C-O, and it allows you, again, to have an enormous, I think this one's good, to edit the media. This one's good because it's such a flat picture to start with. And again, what this gives you is the choice of all of the different aspects and gives you the strength. And it's a very, very good editing tool again. And that one is called, a lot of these do specialized things. That's Vsco. Darkroom, that's another one. Darkroom, again, allows you to do all kinds of changing with filters. As I said, get one or two to begin with and just stay with that. Photoshop Camera. I think we looked at that. No. That allows you, okay, this is, wow, this is a new one called Photoshop Camera, PS Camera. I think it's free, and it allows you to totally transform the picture. I'm just aiming this here at a desk, and as I'm looking at it, it allows you to really play around with the art. Look at that. It's totally transforming what the image would be. It optimizes food, scenery, changes all of these. And this one is called Photoshop PS Camera. Let's go together and see if Photoshop Camera, PS Camera, Photoshop Camera Now, you got to be careful. You want to go to Photoshop Camera, and there it is, and it's free. Finds the face, takes a portrait, transforms. These are just some of the options. This is live. This is happening in live time. I've never seen this. And you can take a picture of somebody and transform it into something like this. It's pretty neat. Anyway, again, it's free and it's called Photoshop Camera. All right. One more, and then we'll take some questions and we'll slow down here. Camera Plus is another free one. And the beauty of Camera Plus is it allows you to actually zoom in on an object that you may not have otherwise. And it allows you a lot of transformations within the picture. It's called Camera Plus. I haven't had a chance to.
Looks like it's giving you an ad to start with. I've seen this that video game ad before.
You have this one. That's one of the problems, and I'm not sure exactly how to get out of it, so I won't mess with it. Okay, then there's the last one, and this is the probably used to be about the best editing tool before Photoshop let everything out. And the beauty of this one is this one really allows you to control the photograph that you may not have been able to do. This one here is called Pro Camera, Procamera. And this is the one that allows you to take in very, very low light. It's almost dark out there. And you can take pictures. I'm not exaggerating. You can go out at night and take pictures by moonlight with this thing. And it will actually fix it up so that it doesn't, yeah, there it is. It doesn't lose the detail at night. So it's got low light and others, but what the beauty of this one actually is the tremendous number of controls that you have. You can, this is one of the few that, I'm going to turn this off. This is distracting. It's actually one of the few that you can have that is, let me get rid of that. Don't want that in there. Well, let's stop share. That you can have a manual control. So if you want to go in and control the shutter speed, and you want to take over all of the focus, and you want to be able to completely control the exposure and the ASA, that's the one to use. It's up to about $7 now. And with the control that Photoshop seems to be giving you right now, I would say that that's not necessarily the best one to use. Let me just go back over here.
So Ron,
yeah,
begs the question, looking at all these apps and all the options and feeling totally overwhelmed, it's clear you have got a phone that has a lot of storage space on it. But let's say you're working with an older phone and you have to choose one, or you have to choose maybe two. What would you start with? And how do you recommend people explore these in a way that doesn't just chew up all the memory on their phones?
That's a good question. Most of the new phones recently, let me get out of this and go back here. I don't want to share. How do I get out of there? There we go. Most of the new phones, I just found out, friend of mine had an old LG phone. And I went into T-Mobile to look at the phones. The cost of memory has come down so far that almost any phone is going to give you the ability to load. This is an older phone. I must have 15 apps just alone in this on here. So I wouldn't worry about it. And I would, if you're going to try to do something like RAW, if you ever get into it, you may run out of memory, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about it. Even the cheaper phones, the $300, $400 phones, should work fine.
Okay, so let's just think about our most precious commodity, which is our time. If of all these that you've shown us tonight, which would you recommend people? I mean, it's going to take time to explore any of these and figure out what you like. So if you had to pick one or two, what should people try first? Because I think the best, my advice would be, go and play with one. If you like it, stick with something that you like rather than getting overwhelmed by the options until you get bored, and then delete it and try something else. Or, if you're not worried about space, just get another one, but exhaust the possibilities until you.
I'm going to go here, and I want to just so that you'll remember them, and put down share, and that should do it. And let's go back. Okay, I would probably start now because there are so many. I would go to probably Photoshop Fix, because that is a basic editing tool. It's very good. It's been around for a long time. It'll give you the ability to sense what kind of control you want. Photoshop Express, Snapseed is very good also. Photoshop Express gives you more options of transformation. And the other one I would try is Lightroom. Lightroom, I would say now, if you're just starting out, go to Lightroom. Go to Lightroom. I just happen to have been using Photoshop for 20 years, so that's why. But I think Lightroom might be the way to go, to just start with a very, very good free editing tool. And then if you want to mess around, you can use, all of these different, whatever Tezzer is, you'll find these. It must be one of these things, again, that allows you to transform the picture into something else and transform it into a face or put text in. The other one that I would possibly use is, if you really want to control everything, I used to say Pro Camera, but at this point, I'm not really sure what the advantages of Pro Camera are, except for the ability to use RAW files. And it's going to be a while until you can use RAW files anyway. And so stuck with that one, with the Lightroom.
Which was the one with the smile correction? Was that Lightroom?
I think that was Photoshop.
Was that Fix?
Fix, maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Photoshop Fix is really neat.
That was pretty cool.
That's when I took this picture to go and do all these things, because it not only allows you to adjust all of the basic things you need, it gives you the next step to perhaps go on and try to do some transformations. Certainly being able to take and put a smile on someone's face without it looking too false is quite a thing. Other questions?
I think people are digesting right now and just trying to figure out what they're going to play with. There's a lot of tools.
It is an enormous amount of pictures. One of the things, you saw some other pictures coming up here, is they have stock photos. So if you want to fool around, they have older people in a wheelchair, they have young kids, they have boats, they'll have all kinds of different things for you to play with, and they'll lead you through it and show you how to take out distracting elements, how to take an older person and get rid of the wrinkles, how to take somebody's hair actually and make it look a little bit better. And that's part of the transformation that's able to be there. It's not necessarily turning it into something artistic, quote, which is what some of these can do.
Ron, I thought it might be good for the last couple minutes of this session to talk about the projects and the form that we put together to encourage people to share some ideas for us to look at next week. So I thought I would go ahead and share my screen, and then you could talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, well, let's do that.
Okay, let me, here. So I shared a link already to the blog post that people can find on the front page of the library's website. So I can post that again in the chat if you need a refresher. It's just thomascrainlibrary.org, and over in the news section, you can find something for this class. There's a link in that blog post to this online form where we're encouraging people to share your photographs. So at the very top, this is what it looks like. And there's, if it's easier for you just to email them to me, you can. And my email address is right there. Actually, it's on the previous page. You see it here because I'm logged in right now at what we're looking at. But my email address is this ccheever@ocln.org. So if you have any problems with this web form, just send me your photographs. But we think this will be easier. What you can do is put in your email address. We have to have that for accountability. And then, Ron, why don't you talk about how you came up with these themes and how you'd like people to think about that?
I just put down some of these just as possible ideas. Get one theme. Take one idea that you might have. It might be, I don't have, funny pet images here. Try portraits, try some self-portraits. They work very well with these cameras because you can actually see your own and do your own self-portrait and actually do some editing with it. Go out in the street photographs. The only thing, again, I want to impress is with these cameras, you really can do candid photography, but be careful. And the way things are going these days, be very careful of ever aiming a camera at a child. You'll be tarred and feathered. For maybe good reason, but don't take pictures of children. And I wouldn't even bother asking somebody. But if somebody looks at you and sees you're taking the picture, ask them if you can take it. But you can do all kinds of candid pictures, because who knows whether you're just looking at your phone, like this, answering something, or taking a picture. They'll never know. And you can also turn off the shutter sound. I put in there the pandemic. Images that somehow reflect, maybe it's the same food that you're always eating. Maybe it's the same cheap wine, whatever it is, whatever represents the pandemic to you as a theme. Macro photography, you can get very close with these, extremely close. Try that. Food is another one. Flowers, designs. Try sunsets and sunrise. Go out at 7 o'clock at night, and you'll be amazed at how low the light can go and still get a picture. Try panoramic. I had water in there. Black and white, you usually have a choice of black and white. Before you edit, you can try that function. Try shooting. Another thing that's fun is try shooting from a high angle. In other words, instead of doing what you always do, is always holding it at the same angle, try to either go high, get down on the ground, take some pictures of scenes and actually kneel down and see how it changes the perspective. Low light images, see how far you can go in low light. What's fun, there's no cars anymore, but is to go onto a street with traffic, and you'll get the blur of the cars, and very often it'll freeze the storefronts, and you get that line of the lights. Action shots, sports, people, animals, children playing. Go for abstract. I showed you last week, just abstract shapes, colors. Guilty pleasures, I saw that somewhere. Food activities that you like, this is an example, but most people do not hold in high regard. Cream-filled donuts and binge watching The Simpsons. You know, you can just tell, oh, that's really fun, is take screen images. It's not cheating. It's not cheating any more than taking pictures of people, and go and watch a program that you like and wait until you get that one image on the screen of facial expression, something, and take a picture of it. Once you take that image of it, take it back, put it into your editor, and see what you can do with it. And you've got a creation that's actually quite your own. People say, well, but that was on the TV screen. What difference does it make? Whether it's on a screen or on a street. And shadows was just another one. Just go out and do shadows and see what happens there. And then anything else you want to do. Those are the different themes.
So a couple questions. Folks are wondering, there's some questions about macro and how to accomplish macros, if you have any tips about that. And then just clarifying, it says at the top of this form, but how many images per theme? And the hope is that people would do 3 to 5 images in a theme. Certainly, if you want to pick multiple themes, you could do multiple entries, and we'll choose our favorites. If we get overwhelmed by photos, we'll pick our favorites, or the ones that we think are the best and the worst examples. Not that we're going to pick on anybody, but we can learn a lot by looking at stuff that didn't work.
And also, when you do these, and if you're on, I'd like to know if you've tried to transform them. And what we can also try to do at that time is to see what different apps, or how we could take one of the apps like Lightroom and improve it, and see what you can do with it. And there was another question, the initial question, what was it?
Just about macros, because they were,
macro.
I think, intrigued by looking at the macro, the suggestion to use that as a theme.
The smartphone cameras these days, you can get very, very close to do macro. If you want to get even closer, sometimes shift into the 2x portion. Some cameras don't have the 2x, but most of them do. And you'll see it yourself before you take the picture, how close you can get very, very close. So there's nothing special you have to use.
That's also if people missed the first class. You talked about that some there, so they can go back and watch that recording. So actually links at the top of this, there's links to the first 2 classes. So when you pull this up, they're also on the blog post and easy to watch there. I should point out at the very bottom of this, there's the ability to upload your photographs there, so that's easy to do. We have a little consent because we want to make sure that it's okay. So as Ron was saying, make sure it's okay, the pictures you take. As being a public library, I want to make sure that we're above board with everything. So I have asked to make sure that you're uploading your own photographs, that kind of thing. You can read the exact language there. And then we just want your contact information. That's optional, really, but that's helpful, especially if we're going to address or talk about Clayton's photos or something when we talk about it this next week. This makes it a little more personal. If you don't want to share that, you don't need to. You can also say anything you like in an email to me. So.
Yes, and again, be a little careful, circumspect when you're taking, canned quote, street photographs, that you don't invade people's territory or space, as it were. But when you can be just looking at your phone and people don't really know, and if you use the soundness controls on the size of it, it'll also click the shutter, so you don't have to take your finger and do it, which makes people totally aware that you're taking their picture.
So I'm really excited to see what images people take and share with us on these themes. I'm sure we're going to see some great photographs. So please go out there, take some great photos, upload them. We'll be looking at them, as they come in. The earlier you get them in, the more likely we are to be able to assemble them. If you wait until the last minute next week on Tuesday evening, it may be harder for us to adapt. So I would encourage, if I don't have a deadline on here, but, I think it'd be great if people could finish this, and finish uploading by, before, let's say 9 o'clock Tuesday morning, so that we've got a full day Tuesday to look at them and figure out, assemble them in some kind of cohesive fashion, put the like with like, and give you otherwise we're trying to do this live raw in front of you, which it won't be as satisfying for everyone. So maybe I'll actually update this and put a deadline, a recommended deadline on here for that. Ron, is there anything else you'd like to say to close our evening? Thank you so much. This has been a great introduction to a lot of different toys to play with.
And I think, as you said, Clayton, I'll have the ability to send certain links to you so that people can see them. Or
you
not.
Bet. If you want to send those links to me, I shared a link on the in the chat to the blog post. I can just add on to that blog post and put the links there. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay, so I'll try to gather some. And what they'll do for you is give you, and it'll be overwhelming. There are some that list 30 different apps and what each of the apps does. I think I've shown you some of the best of the free ones that will actually improve your photography before you start messing around with mustaches on cats. Yeah.
Great. Well, we'll certainly update that. It's probably going to be, realistically, even if you send them to me tonight, it's probably going to be Thursday, just looking at my calendar, when I'm able to update them. So if everybody's
it'll take me a day.
Morning, it's give me a good day and a half or so, and check back on the website for those extra resources on Thursday. So.
And the other thing we'll mention is what we'll also be doing in the fourth week of this is going through the programs that allow you to share your pictures with other people, to post them, to have albums that share with other people, how to send them to people, how to download your pictures in case you want to make them into enlargements or print them, and how to store. This is also important. Somebody asked earlier, what about running out of memory? You should be storing all your pictures up on the cloud, and I'll give you 2 or 3 places that are not only free, but will hold gigabytes, the Library of Congress, literally, for free storage for you, and how to share pictures with people.
There's one final question, I think, for tonight. There's some appreciation and gratitude that's been expressed. One was saying about the ability to use any of these apps on a computer. So we have been focusing all on things that you do on a phone. Is that something you want to cover next week, Ron, or what do you think about?
I can give you a two-minute answer right now, I think, is that it's just recently that these apps, which are developed for use on smartphones, have been able to come over to the Mac platform itself, or to the Google, I call it Google platforms. But some of them don't run either on your pad or necessarily on your desktops. I'll look into it more. Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Ron.
All right.
It's been a very full evening. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for staying with us. I hope you stay cool as we continue through this heat wave. Make sure you stay hydrated and take lots of great pictures and share them with us. Thank you for joining us. And I think it's time to sign off. Have a great night. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.